My cousin's husband sent me explicit pictures. I don't know if I should tell my family. This is my first ever post, and it's a long story, so please bear with me. I, 26 male, have a story about my cousin, 31 female, and her husband, 35 male, that I'm seeking advice on, and that's what we're here for. For a little bit of backstory. I was never that close with my family growing up. They were all the athlete type, and I was the art student. By the way, this comes from FineCan9262 on the OK Storytime subreddit. So, as a child, I would opt to sit in the corner and draw rather than play football in the yard with all the cousins at family events. So with that, I never really felt that close to majority of my family because growing up, I just felt like we were so different. I was the typical teenager who hated being at family functions and wasn't that social and dealing with mental health issues that I never talked about, which usually put a strain on my relationships with my parents and family. Anyways, on to the story. My cousin, let's call her Carrie, has been with her now husband. We will call him Derek for, I believe, 13 years at this point. They got married in October of 2021. Prior to their wedding, I met Derek on a handful of occasions, but given that I grew up in another state from the rest of the extended family, we didn't see them that often, maybe a few times a year. Derek always seemed nice, but was very quiet, kind of like a background character in comparison to my loud New York family, so I never really got to know him. The engagement, Derek hosted a surprise birthday back in like 2017. Fast forward a few years to COVID lockdown. At this point, I moved out of my parents to Florida, so seeing my family decreased even more in regularity. During the lockdown, I decided to drive back home to Pennsylvania for the 2 weeks. Oh, quote unquote. Lo and behold, it turned into nearly 3 months. During this time, my family would have Zoom nights to drink over video chat and talk. They were quite fun, honestly. During one of these Zoom chats, I decided to form a group chat for the cousins on Snapchat. I added everyone to the chat, and then Carrie added Derek herself. I don't mind this at all. The cousins love Derek, so it only makes sense for him to be in the chat with us. Derek then adds me as a friend on Snapchat, since we didn't previously have each other's contact. But again, he's quiet, so he doesn't really say much in the chat either, where the timeline gets a little fuzzy in specific times. However, a few months later, Derek privately messages me on Snapchat. I'm a very forgetful person, so I always change my chat settings to save the text in the chat. Derek doesn't like that and has me change it back, which I thought was weird, sort of a red flag, but whatever. However, I soon understood why. He starts to open up to me, the cousin, about how he's bi. He does so in a more, I guess, aggressive way with the comments, which at first I just took as it's awkward for me to talk about this, so I'm going to make crude comments as a way for it to be funny kind of way. He starts asking me questions about the biggest wieners I've seen and recommendations on porn to watch. Conversations like these would be random and on and off every few weeks/months. He would make comments about his upcoming wedding and how he would get me my own room to F all his hot cop friends in after. At first I thought it was just supposed to be a joke until he said, but only if I can watch. I have in the past asked Derek why he won't be honest with Carrie about his sex, but this comment made me go in harder on the recommendation to talk to Carrie about this stuff. Derek's reasoning as to why he can't tell her is that she would be pissed and blah blah blah. I would always tell him I don't think she would and that he should be honest with her. He would continue to tell me no and how she'll think he's cheating on her. He would then go on to make jokes about her spicy sleep life, saying things like, well, she cheated on me twice, and how she got effed on the kitchen table by like 3 different guys during their brief breakup in college. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting here wondering why he's telling me this about my cousin's spicy sleep life. I know I shouldn't have continued to engage in conversations with him, but I guess I just felt like I had to. That like maybe I'm the only one he feels safe to talk about these things since I know what it's like to be. I know what it's like to feel like you can't talk to someone. I mean, he comes from a pretty right-wing Republican family, married a girl from another right-wing Republican family. He's part of the NYPD, stereotyping I know, but generally a macho man job. And as far as I know, has no other friends, so maybe I'm the only person he can talk to about everything. Eventually, his comments became more blunt and spicy sleep nature. He would ask me if he could show me his D so I can tell him if he's big or not and that it's probably bigger than most. I would always simply reply with, you do what you want, as I realized it's no longer my fault what he does and I can't control him from doing/saying anything. He is digging his own grave after all. Part of me also thought about how the more I let him say/do, the more information I could report to my cousin. I never followed through with saying anything as I realized I have no proof since all communication is done via Snapchat. He eventually sent me a picture of his D and all I could say was that I've seen bigger. He would tell me about how he would have fantasies about having spicy sleep with Carrie and her sister, even mention how he fantasized about their mom. Soon, I thought it was over as their wedding day grew near and he hasn't messaged me these inappropriate things in a while. Fast forward to their wedding. The day was a crap show and the wedding was the biggest political statement of a wedding I have ever seen. I mean, they had the United States national anthem playing on the violin in the church right after Carrie walked down the aisle. At the reception, in lieu of favors, a donation was made in our names to some first responders foundation and came with a little American flag lapel pin for everyone, which when all the older crowd put them on, the wedding looked more like an RNC event rather than a wedding. Even hers, something blue, was a Blue Lives Matter patch with their last news sewn in the under part of her dress. Okay. Dinner had to start late because Derek was so wasted and couldn't come out. They were trying to sober him up while we started dinner. Carrie sat at the bridal table alone at first. She was so pissed. They had a Frank Sinatra perform during dinner who invited all first responders up to the dance floor for a special song. Derek could barely stand up and he threw up during the performance. A few months go by and I'm at work when Derek messaged me asking if it's cheating to work off with his friends. I was completely taken aback by this random message and just continually responded to his questions with that it depends on what he and Carrie have set to be considered cheating in the relationship. He said he didn't think it's a big deal and I told him it might not be to him but could be to her, and that's why they need to have open conversations about their boundaries and set expectations for the relationship. Obviously I wasn't going through to him no matter how many times I told him he should go talk to his wife about this. A few more months go by and I'm on Snapchat playing with random filters out of boredom during a hurricane when I suddenly come across one that makes me do a double take. It was one of those filters that puts a photo on your cheeks and I couldn't tell at first what it was, but at first glance it looked like corn. until I realized it was just a gif of some guy. I thought it was funny and sent a photo with the filter saying, at first I thought this was corn, into the cousin group chat. Derek almost immediately messaged me privately and said, might only be us who like the filter. I sort of just was over him messaging me, so I decided to make an excuse saying the storm is messing with my Wi-Fi, so I need to change the chat settings to not delete in case. He agreed, but immediately comments, or so you can tell everyone. I then continue the conversation with him while using my roommate's phone to film my screen. This way he doesn't get a notification of screenshot/screen recording. This conversation sadly was a more tame one, but was very similar to the other recent one from when I was at work. I tell him he should be honest with her. He says he can't. I explain how most relationships end in cheating due to one person not being honest about what they want/their desires. He makes snide comments about how she cheated on him behind his back twice, and so on. I got nowhere with him, and eventually he went to bed, making sure he changed the chat, delete, back to normal before doing so. All very suspicious to me, but in the end, it's not my circus, not my monkeys, and I don't feel like I have any sufficient evidence to bring forward to my cousin anyway. I bring all of this information up to my older brother one day, saying that I have information that may destroy Carrie's marriage, expecting to gain some advice on what to do. However, my brother just has a, why would you do that? It's not a big deal attitude, and tells me how Derek has sent him nudes of other women in the past and such. I sort of just forgot about this whole thing after a while, and I haven't got any message like that since, as I believe I made him nervous after the last interaction. But recent events brought this all flooding back to me as Carrie just announced to our cousin group chat that they're pregnant. Immediately, I got hit with a sense of guilt. Good. And think I should have said something to her earlier, but now I feel that it's too late to do so. The baby is now born, I believe 3 or 4 months old. I feel so guilty for not saying anything before, and now don't know what to do. Not only may this destroy my cousin's marriage, but could also now result in a child's parents getting divorced. I thought maybe I should talk to my parents about it, but that's awkward as hell. I feel like I can't straight up tell Carrie as I don't have a lot of physical evidence. Since I was never close to my family and disagree with them on a lot of topics, I fear they won't believe me and make me out to be the villain, which is just a load of mental turmoil I don't want to deal with, but this information is also mentally draining. In the end, if they don't believe me, I don't care about having a close relationship with my family. However, my family is all really close, so it will be very uncomfortable at events, and I know my parents will be upset to have the family fall apart like that. So my question is, how do I handle this? Do I or do I not tell Carrie about this? Am I the a-hole for not telling my cousin about all of these conversations her husband had with me in the past? Or am I the a-hole as a man if I out someone to the world, my family, his family, their friends, etc.? You are the a-hole for not telling your cousin about all these conversations?
I refuse to replace my daughter's car. I'm not the one who destroyed it. My daughter, Casey, 17 female, worked and saved up money for around a year to be able to afford a better car than we could buy her with our family budget. My other daughter, Alana, 16 female, has ADHD and recently got her driver's license and asked to drive Casey's car. Casey allowed it, but Alana ended up having a bad accident around 6 months ago, which basically rendered the car unusable. The insurance payout wasn't nearly enough to cover the replacement, and with Alana's medical bills from the accident, thankfully there was no permanent damage, just a broken arm and leg, there was no way we could afford to replace Casey's car immediately. Alana was very apologetic to Casey, and so were we since we couldn't afford to replace her car, but Casey didn't accept our apology and has been basically avoiding us, skipping family dinners, and pretty much pretending that her mom and Alana and I don't exist and only talks to us if she needs a form signed for her school. I begged her to come to a family therapy session, and she eventually relented, but with the condition that Alana wouldn't be present. In the therapy session, she told us that she won't be resuming a relationship with us until we replace her car, which realistically won't be until next year. When the therapist asked how she expected us to do that, Casey said we would just make Alana work to earn the money. The issue is that Alana has severe ADHD and already has trouble managing her schoolwork. I'm worried that making her work to earn money will harm her grades and have significant ramifications for her future. Casey said, well, you should have thought about that before destroying my car. I don't care. I'm not going to speak to any of you unless I have my car replaced. I responded that she was free to avoid speaking to me as long as she wanted to, but I'm not going to permanently harm her sister's future to get her a car earlier. My wife agrees with me that we need to stand firm on our position, but is genuinely afraid that Casey will never speak to us again. I understand that her car was ruined, but I, as a parent, I need to look out for all my children, not just one. I also don't want to set the precedent that emotional blackmail will work, even if what you're asking for is unreasonable. So, am I the a-hole? Comment 1. Anyone wondering how much convincing it took for Casey to let Alana drive her car? OP, no convincing at all. We weren't even involved in the combo between them. Commenter 2. I'm with Casey on this one. You're coddling your youngest, and you have no idea if having a job could actually help your youngest learn to manage her time. You've left your oldest hanging at a dad. If Alana can get her driver's license, she can get a job. And commenter 3. You're the a-hole. You're crapping all over Casey to protect Alana from the consequences of her actions. If her condition is that bad, why was she allowed to drive in the first place? I've got an update from the wife. So I, 39 female, and my husband, 43 male, have 2 daughters, 16, who will call Alana, and 17, who I'll call Casey. Casey's held down a steady job for over a year now and is able to get herself a car. Now, she got this car right as Alana passed her own driver's test. So there's a little issue between who is going to be driving. After a little persuasion, Casey did allow Alana to use her car so long as somebody else paid for gas. We told her that wasn't going to cut it. Alana doesn't have money for that, and it's her car, her responsibility to keep gas in it and keep it on the road. Here's where it gets difficult. Alana wrecked it about a month ago. Luckily, she was fine aside from broken wrist and a mild concussion, but Casey was fuming the entire time and seemed to have this expectation that we would be replacing her car. Her and my husband got into it, and she threw her arms up like a child and stopped speaking to us. We coaxed her into going to family therapy, though it wasn't productive, as she and the therapist agreed that it'd be best to maintain the reduced contact until she's paid back. Here's the problem. The car was 15 grand. She saved up every penny for a year for that car. She'd asked us about it twice a week if we changed our mind, and obviously the answer was no, but that was the only thing she'd say to us. It didn't seem to bother my husband, and he kept saying she'll get over it until last week she packed some things and had my mother come get her. She's been staying at her grandmother's for a little over a week now, and she gave me a good earful. Whatever Casey told her, it worked, because earlier today, my husband and I were informed we had 30 days to replace the car in full, or she was taking us to court. I think my husband is admirable in wanting to stand his ground, but the way I'm looking at it, we have 2 options. And I'm sick of my daughter not talking to me because of crap that is not my fault. Alana has been a wreck. She's already battling severe ADHD, and now she's shaking at the thought of having to appear in court. So I sat them both down and said we have 2 options. We can suck it up, pay $15,000, and have our daughter and sister back, and Alana will just have to buck up and work, or we can let my dad sue my husband and I on Casey's behalf and almost certainly lose. We spoke to 4 different firms and all 4 echoed the similar sentiment that would probably cost us close to triple in the end to bring it to court and fight it there. So that's when I told my husband that I am not going 30 grand further into debt for him to hold the pettiest grudge. He's saying I'm being manipulative by holding this whole situation over his and Alana's heads. I'm not saying it's not part my fault. All I said was that no matter what, at the end of the day, we owe Casey and he needs to just accept that. We can afford $15,000 to replace the car, but if we have to dish out double that just to lose in court anyway, I'm divorcing him before he makes that mistake.
Hey guys, before we continue with the story, we wanted to share with you some exciting news. We're going to be on TikTok Live TV next Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST. We'll have more crazy stories to share with you. It's going to be a great show, so don't miss it. Next Tuesday, live here on TikTok.
In either case, I'm done not supporting both of my daughters. We've tried reasoning with Casey and it has resulted in nothing. We lost this one. Am I the a-hole for trying to get my husband to accept it? I feel I may be, just for how long I was being a passenger, no pun intended, in the situation, and for threatening my husband with divorce. I don't think we did anything that wrong, but I'm willing to admit when we made some mistakes and we have to make up for it somehow. Relevant comments. OP and her husband need to get Alana to pay Casey back for damaging her car. OP, what is she supposed to do? Magically come up with $1,000 to pay the oldest back? It's not a matter of not wanting to hold people accountable. It's simply not realistic. I also want to state on the record, I was very against Casey getting a car that nice as her first. She never listened. Insurance would have likely paid for some if she would have just put her sister as an approved driver on the plan. It would not have been difficult. But no, it's not Alana's fault that she has ADHD. It's not like she wrecked it on purpose. Contra 1. Casey saved up $50,000 and didn't pay the $300 a month to get insurance. Nope. Sounds like Alana wrote this and doesn't know how insurance works. Alana, pay for the gas if you drive the car. Then OP says she had insurance, but they really screwed us over because Casey didn't approve Alana as a driver on the plan. That was a big determining factor in us deciding to hold firm. If Alana would have been approved on the plan, we would have covered the remainder on what the insurance was offering. But this is the result of Casey's decision. Hence, I agreed with my husband that it's fully her responsibility. I just didn't expect her to sue us out of nowhere like this, and I especially didn't expect my parents to be enabling this behavior. What's in her best interest might suck now, but she'll learn from it in the future. My husband's been fuming for weeks over this, and a lot of you are saying he even made a post, but if they ruled not the a-hole, then he wasn't telling the full story. Alana broke her arm in that wreck, and all Casey's cared about the past month is her car. That's the genesis behind the family therapy, and I'm very concerned that so many people are supporting her entitled behavior. OP is blaming her parents for enabling Casey into suing OP and her husband. OP says, I'm not absolving them of blame either. They're the ones enabling Casey in all this. Are you forgetting that it's my mom and dad suing on her behalf? You're nuts if you think they won't be hearing from me. Results will be danged. I'm getting angry telephone calls for a week over this crap storm. Somebody has to answer for that. Even her uncles are on her side. I refuse to replace my daughter's car. I'm not the one who destroyed it. OP on what she and her husband do for Casey. OP says, we feed her, we clothe her, we're going to send her to college, get a place to park that car because of us. And oh, by the way, my husband got under there and fixed the tie rod about a month ago after she got it. For all of you saying about how awful he is, he's not. He loves Casey, we both do, but I didn't see her putting that car up in the air to redo the brakes and fix the AC when she hit a deer. That was all her father. I figured that allowing her sister to also drive their car was more than a fair ask for all he did, and is a big reason why I supported him, and I just hate that I apparently can't support him and love my daughters. If that's the resolution you all want, forget it. Casey's going to take us to court, and then when she loses, she's going to throw another fit, but that's better than dishing out $15K for a car we're not even going to drive. Not lost on me that we owe her, we just don't owe her that much. She'll come around when she realizes how the world works. 3 weeks later. It's been a few weeks since I last updated, and I want to start out by addressing a few things that opened my eyes a little bit in regards to the situation. The first thing being my husband's post, which came well before my own. He and I fought over that. I truthfully didn't love that he used real names. However, when I found out he posted for the sake of transparency, I used real names as well. But with that being said, I went through with the difficult decision to serve him divorce papers. To really abbreviate things, I went to therapy, as a lot of you suggested, and I was assessed with a diagnosis for an obsessive compulsive disorder in my second session. And in my third session, we discussed the whole car situation, and my personal therapist explained it to me in a way that made it hard not to feel awful for Casey. The discussion we had covered quite a lot, with a common denominator in everything that's been going wrong, in large part, has been my husband. He's the reason Casey shared her car. He's the reason Alana got hurt driving on her own, and he's the reason we're set for court in barely a week and still don't have an attorney. And me, I don't know what I've been doing, but it hasn't been being a mother, if I'm honest. One of you asked me straight up, why was I being a passenger? And I just don't have a good answer. I let my parents know about the divorce, and they were a little concerned, but what I didn't expect was for Casey to reach out. Last time we talked was mostly her and my husband butting heads. I really thought she was about to turn on a spit, but I've never heard her cry like that, at least not since she was much younger. I make a little bit more than my husband, but finding an apartment was brutal, especially with Alana wanting to come with me. I don't think I was clear enough about how badly I wanted to pay Casey back before, but I do. Most of my money is in joint savings though, so there isn't much I can afford, but my husband wasn't going to back down. I won't lie, I was selfish. I begged Casey to drop my name from her suit. I told her I would pay what I could afford to get this second, which wasn't much in comparison, and she told me that it wasn't so much the car or the value on its own she wanted back, it was the security to have something of her own. And she listed off probably dozens of instances where Alana got first pick over her, and it was very hard to refute. She told me that losing that much money sucked, which I fully understand, but the bigger loss to her was that her first big girl purchase, which a lot of friends and family were excited about, was now going to be remembered as a family-ending disaster. We agreed to breakfast next week and joint therapy, us two, and her only condition was that I don't at any point try to save him from the suit, which I agreed to. Alana came to me even before my last post saying she only drove so far because my now ex-husband pressured her into picking up a grocery order early for something he wanted to make. This also changed my perspective. I was under the impression that she was doing her own thing, but even my husband owned up to it, which is ground my gears, but I put it together. A legal driver, an expensive car, not insured, and under pressure. Alana drove, but I've come to realize that my ex-husband seems to have a tendency to like pressure people. He's pressured me a lot too. He probably pressured Casey into letting Alana drive at all, which brings me back to her. We finished our talk with better terms. I owe her so much more than breakfast, but I'm just beyond grateful that she's even willing to look at me. I've seen a lot of bold assumptions that I hate Casey and that I vastly favor Alana, but I only feel the second part was ever accurate. I've never hated my own daughter. I was frustrated with her over something I've come to realize wasn't her fault. As of now, I'm just adjusting to a much quieter place and my phone buzzing nonstop. I've only been moved out for 5 days and Alana seems so much less anxious to me at least. It's odd because my place now isn't anywhere near what the house is, but I think last night, probably the first time I've slept 8 hours since high school. Today was productive, and for Casey, I'll admit, I hope she wins. I hope she gets her car and then some. As for the divorce, I don't want much material. I won't say no no to it. I'd rather just have my shared joint savings and try to tackle my own issues, of which I guess I have more than I would have been willing to admit a month ago. I know I'm going to get pelted most likely, but I want you to know I'm thankful. The internet is mean, but it tells the truth. And however this turns out, it's largely your comments that help me see what I was doing was wrong and who was enabling those things. And most importantly, how I could stop it. It's time like this where my dad would tell me, I'm not lucky, I'm privileged. I think that applies here. I'm privileged that my daughter didn't just laugh, even though she could and arguably should have. That's the update. I'll update whenever Casey and I meet, barring she's comfortable with it. And then you probably won't hear from me until the whole suit and divorce is over and done with. I just wanted Reddit to know I hear you all. I wish I could have seen the reason when I first posted. I'm frustrated reading my own comments. Therapy is a powerful thing. And so, commenter one, it's great that you seem to have changed your tune a bit, but this still screams of avoiding being held accountable. Your ex-husband may have been the driving force behind the fault with Casey, but you were trying very hard to place blame on Casey in your initial post and subsequent comments, and it's hard for me to believe you switch sides that easily. I hope Casey gets the outcome she deserves from all this, whether that's your ex-husband being taken to the cleaners or both of you. Commenter two, you're still the a-hole. You allowed this all to happen. Your daughter bought the car and it was okay to let the other daughter drive it and not have to pay for gas. Take some responsibility and realize you are a crap parent. That is where that story ends.
Yeah, I agree.
Frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's just frustrating that like her kind of revelation is, oh, I was never at fault for anything. It was always my husband. He was the bad guy all along.
Yeah, I'm just appalled that she doesn't believe that people would see through that massive charade.
Yeah, like you don't just like get out of it that
easy.
It's not one therapy appointment, and it's like,
therapy's changed me so much. No, you go to years of therapy and maybe become less of an artist. What do you think, Jan?
I was gonna say she definitely flipped after she posted that, and then the internet was like, "You're an a-hole." She's like, "Oh no!"
While she was posting it, like even in the post, it was. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah, she's like, "Wait, no,
it wasn't me. I swear, I didn't do anything wrong." That is where that story ends.